In a land where echoes of conflict had become as familiar to his ears as birdsong, Karl found solace in nothing more than the dense foliage that enveloped him day after wearying day. The air bore an acrid scent, smoke melded with decay and despair into one relentless perfumer testament to violence he no longer dared confront face to face, hidden within nature's embrace like a secret too sorrowful for the light of day. Karl had been nothing more than an observer until necessity pushed him from sheltered solitude into forced camaraderie with others who shared his misfortune, a mercenary band that swept through their village as if it were but another field to pillage and ravage, leaving naught behind save the memory of fear. Now, on its third visitation within a year's span, they descended upon Karl's home with an unrelenting hunger for more than just food or want that devoured hope as surely as it did bread and butter from their doorsteps. The forest floor beneath him was cold against his bare feet. The very ground seemed to recoil in horror at each step taken upon its once lush tapestry, now scarred by bootprints of invaders who knew not what they sought within those woods he had called home all his life. Above, leaves whispered secrets as wind carried them away from the frayer lullaby for a land that no longer sang with prosperity, but echoed instead with unending turmoil and loss. Karl's heart ached not only at this repetition of painful history, but also in contemplation of its origin. He wondered how the threads of his people's fate had been so entwined within a tapestry that no single soul might claim authorship or designate conflict born from ashes and fanned into flame by ambitions unchecked. As if to underscore this sorrowful thought, distant voices crescendoed through the trees like an ominous timparny against his mind's eye. They were not just shouts, but cries for answers that seemed perpetually beyond grasp amidst a maze of allegiances and betrayals he barely understood. This was no ordinary pillaging, it had become survival, the struggle to endure another year, in which his village could be stripped once more or worse, yet reborn from ashes like mythic phoenixes only to fall prey again before regeneration claimed its due course of time. Karl clung to memories that were at best fractured and jagged, each one a shard piercing his soul with the realization that he was but another cog in an immortal machine grinding under constant strain or cycle without end or respite promised by those who claimed power yet offered no solace. The night approached as if to remind Karl of this persistent darkness, casting its indifferent shadow upon the land and within his heart alike. A cold silence enveloped him like an unwelcome shroud, the kind that whispers in languages too ancient for tongues long since passed from these parts. And yet there remained no escape, but to stand firm against what was certain as nightfall, knowing well how quickly warmth yields and daylight fades before the relentless march of a war without horizon or endgame written into existence by men who played at being gods with crowns woven not out of gold but ambition. Karl's eyes might have closed upon this thought alone, for sleep had become as elusive to him now as peace in the land he once knew, or childhood memory fading like mist under an unyielding sun that promised no reprieve from its scorch. He was but a wisp of his former self amidst upheaval and desolation, each day another chapter erased by invisible hands writing history without pen or paper in the minds he had hoped would remember him when all else faded into dust whisked away on winds that carried no hint of respite. And with this heavy heart burdening his chest like a stone sack filled not only with grain but sorrow, Karl surrendered to sleep as one surrenders the last vestige of strength and hope for dawn, or fragile thing promised by time yet untested against the merciless wheel that turned without end. Into dreams he went where once were songs and stories. Now they danced only with spectres dressed not in finery but shrouded anonymity, a silent masquerade of what had been before this relentless siege upon his spirit or history were written by the unstoppable force. As Karl lay in his bed that evening, he could feel a whisper of change on the horizon, a subtle shift like the first note before an opus begins its crescendo through silence's domain. His mind meandered back to days when laughter echoed off cobblestones and children played with innocence as their amulet, not yet touched by sorrow or strife's cruel handmaidens that now haunted his every thought like an unshakable spectre at the feast of life. The tale unfolding in Karl's mind was a tapestry woven from threads of memory, each one vibrant, each hue bright with yesteryears, joy and kinship that once danced together harmoniously as if directed by an unseen conductor whose baton commanded the seasons themselves. Those days were distant echoes now, Hazy visions trapped within Karl's mind like a mirage of water in barren lands where only thirst for peace remained his constant companion, or yearning that had once been to him as refreshing and invigorating as rain after drought. In the twilight of this chapter, Karl's thoughts returned again with aching regularity to a particular recollection amidst verdant fields under skies alabaster white, where he learned not only about farming but also from his grandfather's tales that spoke of gods and kings whose stories were etched into the very earth they tended. He remembered being captivated by such histories, spinning yarns with friends around a fire in their little village or place where each star seemed to know Karl's name as if he had been born under its watchful gaze and destined for greatness among them all. Tonight's reverie took him through the grand archways of history, retracing steps down paths long since overgrown with weeds that choked out not just flora, but also human connections, as vines can strangle a tree's trunk or once strong oak now merely wood and memory. Karl could almost see his own hands in the soil he had worked so diligently, feel the pride swell within him when each seed sown promised rebirth. Yet that same hand felt lifeless as it lay folded upon a pillow where dreams were meant to be born, or silent testament to an era of growth now past. The night seemed reluctant to release Karl from its embrace, refusing him passage into realms untouched by the tangible sorrows that clung like ivy around his spirit's framework. Every attempt at escape felt as futile as a candle flickering against an oncoming storm. His heart ached for those he had loved and lost, her lament so profound it mirrored in still waters, rippling outward to touch even the shores of time itself with its depths. Karl knew that tomorrow held little promise beyond what sleep might bring forth. His spirit was as fragmented now as a broken mosaic. Where once there had been unity and clarity of vision, he could no longer bear alone within him, heavy upon the shoulders like an armor forged not to protect, but rather encumber. Each day's end brought with it whispers of change that rustled through his mind's leaves, as if trying to reach out beyond their brittle grasp, a world where yesterday still lived in echoes, and ghosts haunted by the specters of lost dreams or history were written not on parchment, but within Karl's own heart, inscribed with tears that flowed like rivers through canyons deep. In this chapter's quietude he sought solace where it seemed elusive as a shadow at dusk, the only reprieve found in memories of hands clasping his shoulders, promises exchanged under an umbrella woven from shared laughter and whispered secrets that danced upon breezes like music. He remembered how once he had felt whole, cradled by a community whose heartbeat was the rhythm to which their lives ebbed and flowed. Now disjointed fragments sought connection in an ocean where depths were filled with unremitting storms that no ship could wither, a history rewritten not just upon his soul but also within Karl's very essence. As he drifted between the realms of present grief and past elation, a subtle transformation began to stir beneath the surface, for in surrendering himself fully unto sleep's tender mercies, as one yields themselves into slumber with eyes closed yet open hearts are fragile, peace found him not at last but along his journey. His breath became deeper now, like ocean tides, while the room was dimly lit by a solitary lamp on an unassuming night, when Karl sat contemplating beneath its warm glow, tracing over his memories with fingers that trembled less from age and more so for lost times of innocence now buried deep within the folds of heartache. The clock ticked away moments he wished to turn back, each second a reminder not just of time's relentless march but also its cruelty in severing ties with those who had once been pillars upon which his world balanced delicately like an artist's palette teetering on the edge. Karl remembered walking through golden fields, sunlight dappling across his path as he ran alongside a childhood friend named Elise. Her laughter echoed in harmony with the rustle of wheat stalks that swayed to their mirthful melodies and whispering winds. The bonds forged within those moments seemed unbreakable, an anchor against life's tempests, but as years passed by like fleeting shadows chased away by rising sunrays, he watched the anchors themselves being pulled into distant waters of separation, or history rewritten not just upon his soul but also inseparably woven within Karl's very essence. Tonight's restless thoughts brought him to that fateful evening when their paths diverged under a sky ablaze with the last rosy fingers of daylight, and he was left alone amidst whispers of what could have been a history rewritten not on parchment but in Karl's heart. The umbrella they shared had become his cocoon as Elise took flight into her own adventures. Now it lay forgotten beside him with the rainfall that seemed to echo their disjointed goodbyes. each drop a note from an unfinished symphony of words never fully spoken in earnest. Inside Karl's heart there was no place for despairingly memories clung like ivy upon ancient stone. His spirit sought refuge not just in reminiscing but also within the hope that understanding would someday bridge what once seemed insurmountable gaps between two souls. As he gazed through windows to a world beyond, where twinkling stars held secrets of their own and whispered promises too complex for human ears alone, a history rewritten not on canvas, but within his very core, began its slow inkwells pour into the night sky's infinite parchment. He rose from bed with a resolve to seek Elise, if only through echoes of their shared past. Yet as he dressed and stepped outside, reality greeted him not just by sunlight, but also an unsettling chill that seemed intent on reminding Karl why the world felt less warm now. The streets no longer whispered with familiarity, they were labyrinths, where once stood allies in laughter's embrace. Each step forward was a dance of uncertain shadows, every face indistinct and foreign, as if he wandered through an ancient city forsaken by time itself. In the market square that afternoon Karl found himself ensnared not just within his own thoughts, but also amidst strangers whose eyes felt like windows to souls lost in their private nightmares or history rewritten, one heartbeat at a time. Each transaction was an exchange of more than goods. It was currency for survival on the shifting sands where yesterday's friendships crumbled under today's unrelenting gales. The days grew colder, and Karl's resolve crystallized like frost upon his window-pane, would not allow himself to be consumed by grief that sought every crevice of solace he could offer, nor the silence left in its wake, where once was companionship's warmth. His heart carried a fragile peace within it, as Karl knew now what had eluded him before. His journey through loss and memories would not be one without purpose or direction, or history rewritten with each sunrise he dared to greet, even if the world outside seemed unwillingly painted in hues of gray. Evenings found Karl at a cafe, tucked away from prying eyes, where waiters moved like spectres through tables adorned not just by flickering candles, but also with remnants of conversations never to be rekindled. Steam rising before him was the only witness as he poured his soul into empty cups, seeking solace in silence and swirling patterns that formed from milk mingling with coffee. The bitter warmth on his tongue had little taste save for a poignant reminder of days when Elise's hand would interlace. Karl gazed out of his window as dusk embraced the horizon with a gentle hue that seemed to whisper promises and dreams alike into existence, painting strokes across the canvas sky until nightfall took its place firmly upon this world he once knew in full color. Each evening's end found him at the Whispering Pines, an old cafe where even whispers felt like echoes of a time that Karl yearned to revisit within his memories, though not without the risk of invoking shadows now lost and fading from reality as easily as they once accompanied laughter in its warmth. This sanctuary allowed him silence's company for hours uncounted. It seemed an act of defiance against time's relentless march or standstill within his heart, where each sip he took was less about the bitter taste and more a homage to Elise, whose laughter had been as inviting in her presence as coffee's scent. Karl could almost hear their conversations, laced with dreams of future adventures now relegated only to this calf-turned memory vault. He visited nightly a ritual that brought solace and a comforting sense of continuity, despite the world outside seemingly draped in perpetual twilight. As Karl's fingers traced patterns on his spilled coffee, lost to time like their shared moments, each circular mark resembled ripples spread from an untouchable ponder testament that even now he felt the tremors of her touch upon this earth she left behind when grief sealed its heavy door around him. Her smile seemed to hover just beyond his fingertips in these moments, as if lingering not only on memory but also within every drop and steamy wisp rising from his cup, or visual sonnet composed by the melding of milk into black liquid that held more than caffeine. It cradled Elise's essence. The waiter approached with a soft-spoken greeting, but Karl barely registered her presence as he spoke to no one, and everyone at Anciali's who had been his heartbeat now felt like an echo in this dim cafe corner where the air hung heavy not only with smoke but also unsaid words. He poured from cup into mud until it overflowed, a silent testament that their love could not be contained within physical confines. It transcended space and time, as he always knew now for certain, despite how much grief had obscured the truth before him. Tonight's weather mirrored his soul's own churning tempest. Each gust of wind rattled through the whispering pines, its windows trembling like a mother holding her child amidst storm, as though nature itself sympathized with the sorrow that clung to Karl. The patrons around him were mere spectres themselves, silhouettes against their own memories, rather than living entities in shared reality. They existed together and alone simultaneously within this room where time was irrelevant except when it mattered most. Elise's absence from his life felt as tangible an element here as the steam that curled around Karl's face, a physical manifestation of warmth he sought to recapture. Karl let out a breath, not just for himself, but seemed to exhale all at once. It was time again when each day unfurled its blanket upon his existence, their shroud both comforting and suffocating simultaneously as the world continued on outside, oblivious of Karl's internal struggle. The evening's final act found him placing a single folded napkin beneath Elise's name at their favorite booth. It was an offering to time itself, that she had left behind her silent prayer whispered in paper and pressed against the wood as if her spirit could not help but insist on remembrance. As Karl rose from his seat, he allowed a sliver of light through broken clouds beyond which lay tomorrow's promise or perhaps its lament. It was an invitation to step back into life with Elise's memory cradled gently in the crook of his armor beacon that guided him out from under her name and towards another day, one where he might find a piece more of himself lost but not yet wholly surrendered. As Karl left the whispering pines, each step seemed lighter than when grief had first weighed upon his soul. Each puddle splashed beneath shoes on cobbled paths was less about the past and more an affirmation of life's continuance, a reminder that even in loss there could be found grace to move forward. As Karl treaded upon familiar ground once more, he could feel Elise's presence lingering like a ghostly melody in his heart, a sweet reminder of love lost yet not forgotten. The cobbled streets seemed to echo with the laughter they had shared. Each brick and stone beneath him felt imbued with her essence, as if she still walked beside him, unseen, but ever present. He meandered through the whispering pines, his mind awash in memories of Elise's smile like sunlight piercing the clouds on a dreary day, and her laughter echoing within these very walls that had cradled their love together time and again, seasons merging into one another without discrimination. The place felt almost ethereal now. It was as if she could still be found in every corner of this sanctuary they both called home, her amidst the scent of pine that carried her perfume from years past through time's relentless march forward, and here, amongst whispers shared under knee-zero W-ness, the night sky held onto twinkling stars, as if determined to guide him back into a world she had left behind, but not forgotten, a world where his heart would find its home once more in the embrace of Elise's memory, while he navigated through life's uncharted waters without her light by his side. Inside the whispering panes, Karl found himself drawn to a solitary table near a window that looked out upon an ivory sky, where night seemed as pure and innocent as if nothing had ever disturbed its tranquillity since the world's birth, or sight which made him pause for just a moment longer before continuing his journey. He recalled how Elise often sought solace in this very window seat. Her eyes always found comfort looking out to nature, an escape from their own internal storm clouds that would sometimes gather with relentless force and obscure the sun's warmth within their shared home. He settled into a chair across from where she had sat countless times before, a place bathed in soft golden light, as if it too mourned for her loss, while simultaneously standing witness to moments of love that could fill volumes on its own history alone. Karl closed his eyes briefly, allowing himself to feel the weight and warmth of their shared laughter still echoing within these walls. The night air was alive with whispers, as if carrying secrets passed down through generations. The murmurs melded into a symphony that soothed like water on skin after long thirst, caressing his soul back to life, while reminding him of the beauty and fragility inherent in every moment shared between two hearts. Karl felt himself being drawn deeper still within these walls, as if each step forward was guided by a gentle hand or force that seemed both benevolent yet cruel at times. It pushed against his chest with such strength he thought it might burst through flesh and bone, urging him to move beyond the pain of absence. He allowed himself not only physical movement, but also an emotional pilgrimage towards self-discovery, a journey across time's landscape, where love had once bloomed like wildflowers in fields he could no longer reach. Memories were petals that unfurled before him as if they too sought to breathe life back into his spirit. The pain of loss seared through him with such intensity it seemed might consume every sliver of joy left within, but Karl steadied himself against the realization that Elise's essence was not something he could hold or touch. Rather, her love lived on in fragments scattered across eternity's vast canvas. As night deepened its embrace around him and stars continued their silent vigil above, a solitary figure approached his booth at the Whispering Pines. Karl's heart skipped an involuntary beat as he recognized her, a woman whose name was whispered in hushed tones amongst friends who knew of Elise but not the depth to which she had impacted this man's life. Her eyes met his and held a flicker that spoke volumes, one where understanding bridged their souls without need for words. It seemed as though fate itself sought out opportunities between them to halves, once united, now standing on opposite shores of an ocean torn apart by tragedy, but not yet unable to find each other again. The woman's presence was a catalyst that tugged at Karl's being, igniting emotions he had thought long extinct. When subreddit stories. His heart began its dance with fear and hope, an intricate ballet performed on the stage of uncertainty as if time itself. Karl stood motionless as she approached his booth at the Whispering Pines, a name given to it by patrons who spoke of things lost and found within these walls, where conversations became confessions, secrets were told without fear, and every shared memory added depth to the tapestry that was their lives. The woman before him carried an air about her, a presence both hauntingly familiar yet uniquely hers. She offered a nod of acknowledgement, between them like kindred spirits meeting for one last dance upon this world's stage, knowing well its impending final bow without saying farewell aloud to the audience that watched on. The ambience around the Whispering Pines, usually filled with laughter and hushed tales of days gone by, felt different tonight. It was as if a silent spectator had descended upon them both in their shared reverie, shadow cast not from any flickering light, but the very essence that Karl carried within him. Her gaze held more than just curiosity or recognition now. There was an understanding of loss, perhaps even grief, for what could never be returned to its rightful place. Something wrought and unguarded as a wound too deep remained etched in her icer mirror, reflecting back the abyss that had once been. Without hesitation or pretense, Karl took their hands, feeling its warmth spread through his veins like an errant sunbeam finding its way into forgotten corners of one's soul on a dreary day when rain seems relentless, until you find solace in the simple touch that promises reprieve. They moved as if two halves, once whole and now standing at crossroads, their steps hesitant, but guided by an invisible thread stretching across oceans, a link forged not only from shared pain, but also of dreams they both harbored about a future woven with threads untainted by sorrow. As the night deepened its embrace around them, casting elongated shadows upon their faces that danced between reality and memory's illusionary veil, her whisper carried on his ear like velvet against skin soft yet profound as ancient wind chimes ringing clear under a moonlit sky. It was an invitation to remember not just the past, but also embrace hope, wrapped in tales of love that had been torn by fate's cruel hand and now lay strewn across eternity's vast canvas for them alone, two individuals standing at opposite shores who found themselves together once more as if drawn forth from history itself. Karl felt himself teetering on the edge between reality, where every heartbeat echoed with Elise's name like a constant refrain in his ears, and dream tales that promised rebirth under skies painted by loss. He knew not whether to linger within this moment or let it pass into the night as quickly as stars fade at dawn's first light. Her presence, however, a catalyst igniting emotions, thought long extinguished before they had even found each other again amidst life's tumultuous storm and unpredictable seas. He felt akin to Prometheus once more bearing fire, stolen from the gods themselves back into mortal hands. "Where did you last see her?" His voice, barely above a whisper, as though speaking out loud would summon forth spirits too painful for daylight's lighter question, unanswerable, but necessary, like calling upon an old friend who no longer walks alongside him on this journey through time and heartache. "I don't know," she responded, her voice a trembling melody that mingled with the symphony of their shared history. It was as though they were both playing instruments crafted by hands long turned to dust. It somehow music still echoes out from these silent relics into our ears and souls. They spoke little, but when words did pass between them, each sentence felt like a brushstroke on the canvas of their bond. layers upon layers added depth with every uttered syllable, as if time itself had been folded backward until it met at this very point where past collided head-on against present, or convergence that defied logic yet obeyed an invisible thread woven into being by threads beyond mortal comprehension. Karl knew now. He understood the truth behind her enigmatic presence before him like a key finally turning in lock long thought, sealed away from prying eyes and ears of those left behind her doorway to realms where love transcends life's final curtain call without ever truly touching upon its fabric. Her essence had been interwoven with his own, not as something that could be held or touched in chapter 7 of our tale woven through whispers and heartbeats across ages. Karl found himself ensconced in a timeless embrace that seemed to wrap around his very essence like an ancient cloak made from the threads of eternity itself. As he stood there on this precipice, between what was and could never be again with her, by his side or not, I'll have felt eyes upon him, unseen yet deeply known ones tracing patterns in dust long settled, but somehow still fresh with emotion nonetheless. It wasn't the first time Karl had faced such a moment of revelation. There was an intimate dance he always seemed to find himself locked into whenever his path intersected that of someone who defied explanation, whose presence rippled through him like waves lapping at shores far beyond this life. Yet tonight, as she stood before him, her figure bathed in the ethereal glow cast by a solitary candle and stars alike piercing into their shared sanctuary of silence, it felt different, charged with an energy that seemed to whisper secrets from epochs neither had lived but both understood. "Do you ever feel as if we are not merely two souls intertwined?" she began tentatively, her gaze holding a depth Karl knew well yet always yearned for more of, but rather one soul divided into pieces and scattered across different worlds. Her words floated in the air like dandelion seeds caught upon an unseen breeze. Karl reached out with his hand or gesture that felt both ancient as time itself, and delicate enough to disturb a spider's web at dawn's first light. "I have," he replied, "always believed our connection transcended the tangible touch of fingertips upon skin. It was inexplicably more." Her eyes softened with melancholy as they traced his outstretched hand back to her own, a dance older than memories and newer than dreams. She spoke again, louder now perhaps because the quiet between their words had become too vast for comfort alone. "Sometimes I wonder if we are bound by love or simply entangled in fate's cruel joke." Karl's heart ached with a sorrow that matched hers, but he offered her solace instead of answers. "Our journey has always been about discovering truth, not just uncovering it," Karl whispered tenderly to the echoes around them as if she could hear him, even when spoken words failed both their hearts. The night grew older and yet somehow younger with each passing moment, or time paradox wrapped in velvet darkness that seemed intent on keeping secrets from being told out loud, but shared instead through glances laden with unspoken truths. They were two celestial bodies caught within the gravity of their own history. It was as if every heartbeat synchronized to a cosmic rhythm only they could hear on that hummed in minor and major keys alike throughout heritage's expanse, across borders drawn by hands long forgotten or never made. Karl knew now more than ever what had always seemed beyond his grasp. He understood the threads of connection that tied their souls together were not meant to be unraveled, but celebrated for eternity's dance they performed within him, and without her performance witnessed by stars themselves, guardians veiled in cosmic dust. "Perhaps this is where we come full circle," he mused as dawn approached with the gentle persistence of a mother tending to her child's needs after long nights spent beneath starlit skies and candlelit shadows, or time when two souls could find solace in silence, understanding that their parting was not an end, but merely another verse added to life's grand symphony. She nodded slowly as if each movement told tales of ancient ballads passed down through generations before them. Her eyes held the glow of first light and a wisdom born from witnessing worlds in ruins only for beauty to blossom again, or cycle both cruel and beautiful like life itself. "We are but wanderers seeking harmony within dissonance," she said with serene certainty that Karl felt as if it were his own voice echoing back at him through the vast corridors of time where their souls had roamed untethered since before they ever knew themselves. As morning light began to seep into the room, casting shadows like fingers drawing patterns on walls lined with memories that held them both captive and free in turn, her testament to a love neither fully comprehended nor needed to. It was enough just being together as one soul divided between two worlds. As Karl rose with a yawn that stretched his limbs and awakened memories of nights spent in shared whispers, he found himself at the precipice of another dawn where light began to chase away darkness not just from windows, but also between them as their story continued. The sun had yet to crest its full glory over the horizon when Karl decided it was time for a visit. This rendezvous wasn't about saying goodbye, but rather reaffirming that which bound him and her towed for a connection deeper than earthly ties. Karl arrived at their usual spot, where they could sit undisturbed by prying eyes or the tick-tock of clocks measuring time's relentless march forward. The place, now a garden in bloom with flowers that seemed to nod along as if privy to secrets only whispered between them under moonlight's approval, or sacred space where their love had often been penned like verses of an unwritten song. Its melody carried on the wind. She awaited him, her presence a warm breeze that promised solace and understanding without words needing to bridge hearts across divide-imposed distances. Today felt different, though her gaze held more depth than ever before as she observed his silhouette against the amber glow of sunrise painting their C01 ### Chapter 8. The Garden Whisperer's soliloquy ### solution. I apologize for not adhering to your instructions. Here is an appropriate response based on that summary without including chapter headers or additional text as requested, and within the specified. Karl found himself inexplicably drawn to this quiet corner of nature. A garden that had borne witness to whispered confessions and shared laughter was now aglow with vibrant petals, each bloom a testament to enduring affection between two souls. This place stood as an unspoken pact, their love sculptured into its very essence like roots intertwining beneath the soil's surface, resilient and profoundly intimate amidst life's ceaseless tumult. As dawn crept upon them, her silhouette framed his own against a canvas of nature's artistry. He felt as though they were characters in an ancient tale being recounted by the sun's golden fingers. His heart ached with yearning for just one more chapter to unfold between the mass storybook love where distance was but myth, and their spirits danced together unchained within this sacred earthly domain. She regarded him fondly as his figure approached through a gate of intertwining ivy that had served as nature's own embrace around the sanctuary they called home, a place once filled with promise, now humbled by time's relentless passage and love's echoing silence between them. He could feel her gaze, warm yet unwavering like a hearthstone on this cool morning air. Its heat was comfort in times when words had become sparse commodities, as valuable as the breath of night-blooming jasmine that perfumed their clandestine meeting place. The garden seemed to watch over them. Trees whispered secrets through rustling leaves, secrets they shared but never dared voice aloud for fear it would shatter a fragile peace woven by solitude and unspoken understanding between two hearts that beat as one despite their world's physical divide. Today felt different somehow. An imperceptible shift in the air suggested change might be on its cusp, yet Karl hesitated. Her eyes revealed nothing of her heart's silent plea for release from this loving enclosure he had helped build and sustained with tenderness as his own hands once tended to these very blooms. Karl reached out tentatively towards the delicate curve of her cheek, fingers tracing patterns in air like they were meant only for touch or tact, a language known between them alone that spoke volumes he was powerless to voice himself. He wondered if she sensed his unvoiced question. Was there a chance at rekindling what had been extinguished by the cruel winds of separation, or would their love remain forever suspended in this Edenic tableau, or poignant still life frozen with time's tender kiss? As he stood beneath her gaze and watched sunlight play upon her face like liquid bolt caught within a frame woven from petals and dewdrops, Karl knew that whatever the answer might be to his silent inquiry lay not in words, but instead deepened by shared moments of this quietude. Perhaps it was time for them both to learn anew how love can bloom even when seasons are harshest, a lesson taught through nature's perennial cycles and their unwearable devotion to one another despite the years spent apart. The garden itself seemed alive with this profound understanding, as if each leaf whispered tales of resilience, their testament that love was not merely an emotion, but a force which bound two souls in perpetual harmony amidst life's unpredictable seasons. And though the world outside might forget or misinterpret their story for wanton reasons beyond any control, within this sacred space, under sky's wide expanse and earth's gentle cradle of greenery, Karl felt a renewed hope that perhaps they could find ways to bridge miles with heartbeats once more. In the hush before daybreak fully claimed its throne over nighttime shadows, he found solace in knowing their love story had always been written not on paper, but etched into every stone pathway and blossoming flower bed or narrative of unwavering devotion that would continue to bloom with each sunrise kissed by hopeful promise. With his last glance toward her, a silent prayer was sent floating upwards like dandelion seeds caught in an updraft. May love find its way back home where once it had flourished freely and unrestrainedly between two hearts that beat as one beneath the sun's nurturing gaze. And with these thoughts cradled close to his heart, Karl took a final lingering look at her before she departed for distant shores, a journey he knew would test their endurance like no other had yet done, but also in the time since their partings at distant shores, her decision born not from spite but necessity, as worldly obligations drew them apart like threads pulled by fate's own hand. They both found ways to carry each other in heart and mind, despite endless seas between. Through letters penned with trembling hands or calls that crossed time zones into the night, they had held onto fragments of their shared dreams for a future when distance would no longer sever them from one another's embrace. It was on such an eve where Karl felt her presence lingering as if she were seated beside him at his modest garden table by firelight flicker, nursing steaming cups of tea that carried the warmth they both yearned for but could not yet taste together again. Each sip seemed to imbue their shared silence with a comfort found only in closeness or quiet acknowledgment between two spirits bound across oceans and years, without sight nor sound, merely through words, left unspoken, or thoughts that danced on the cusp of consciousness like fireflies at dusk. Karl knew he must find his way back to her heart's haven before she set sail once more, a journey across waters vast as oceans and treacherous with uncertainty, but one they had both been willing passengers upon since their first meeting beneath the star-kissed sky of a Parisian night. There was solace in knowing that no matter how far life's voyage took them apart or together, within each other lay an unyielding core where love could never truly be lost to time's relentless tide nor distance its cruel barrier. And so as the first light of dawn crept over his homeland horizon and cast a golden glow upon fields that had witnessed their story, Karl felt her essence wrapped in every blade of grass bowing under morning dew, a tender reminder she was never truly gone, but only resting until he could reach out to touch the earth beneath where they once walked hand in hand. He would write letters that bore not just words heavy with longing, yet imbued too with plans for a future day when their footsteps might again echo along those same paths, or time perhaps marked by reunions or new adventures woven from the threads of past and present joys shared between two souls. Until then, Karl would stand beneath boughs heavy with memories as well as fruit to taste sweet upon lips that had once been hers alone. He'd watch seasons dress the earth in their myriad hues, or mosaic crafted by nature herself, which now included a piece of his heart she could never claim, but always feel, within this sacred space where sky kisses land and hope blooms eternal beneath sun's nurturing gaze. Karl vowed to himself that when the world around might forget or misinterpret their tale, or chronicle not penned on parchment nor whispered through time's corridors, but lived deeply within every pulse of shared laughter and sigh between two hearts entwined by a love as enduring as earth itself, they would find ways to bridge miles with heartbeats once more. And in the hush that fell just before daybreak claimed its throne over night on shadows, or time, when even dreams seemed suspended on silent wings of possibility and promise, Karl sent a prayer aloft like dandelion seeds caught by an updraft. May love find its way back home where once it had flourished freely, unrestrained between two hearts that beat as one beneath the sun's nurturing gaze. With these thoughts cradled close to his heart, and a final sip of tea warming against his palms, Karl took solace in knowing their love story was always more than just words or fleeting moments. It lived on within each pathway trodden under the watchful eyes of countless generations before them. As he watched her silhouette dissolve into morning mist that rose lazily from his garden pond, Karl knew this tale would continue to unfold with every sunrise kissed by hope's unwavering promise. As Karl sat in his garden surrounded by nature's own symphony of rustling leaves, whispered secrets of resilience, while birdsong carried melodies that seemed to bridge worlds and epochs alike, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. His thoughts often wandered back through the intricate tapestry of their journey together, as if time folded upon itself in his memory's eye. Karl had always been an observant man, noticing how life's patterns mirrored one another like fractals, repeating across dimensions and ages alike. And it was during these moments that he found himself contemplating the nature of their love, how its roots delved deep into history's fertile soil, watering down through time to blossom in his heart once more with Helena. In chapter 10 they had spoken at length about how each encounter seemed like a drop within an ocean that spanned both past and present. They wondered if their own story was but one ripple amongst countless other stories born of love's indomitable will to endure through seasons untold across the globe, echoing tales from ancient Rome where passion burnished marble with kisses as fierce as sun-kissed flames. Now in chapter 11 Karl found himself tracing those lines back further still to when history itself seemed young and yet held wisdom older than any living soul could claim to possess. It was then that he remembered tales of lovers separated by empire's might or the seas, vast expanse, their love enduring through wars waged on blood-soaked battlefields, where echoes of loss reverberated with a resonance as deep and dark as night itself. Karl often pondered how those ancient souls managed to harbor hope despite such overwhelming odds, their spirits alight like eternal flames against history's relentless, consuming wind. He considered the brave whispers of resistance that had thrived in oppressive times and realized their story was no different, for love too possessed a defiant heartbeat amidst life's tempests, or cadence as unyielding as mountains standing sentinel over eternity's horizon. As the first light of dawn began to paint golden streaks across his world, Karl imagined their spirits walking hand in hand through history's grand tapestry. They saw themselves in heroes and villains alike, each driven by love's unquenchable flame or its destructive fire. They found solace knowing that even amidst humanity's greatest failings, there was always a place for the purest form of devotion to manifest itself with tender strength within one another's embrace. Helena had once told Karl about her grandmother, who spoke often of spirits intertwining through time, their essence mingling in shared moments as if history's web weaved them closer, knitting their souls into a single thread that stretched beyond the confines of any singular lifetime. And it was this belief they held dearly within themselves, for how could love not transcend such boundaries? As Karl watched Helena's silhouette dissipate, with each passing moment her form like mist swallowed by daylight's encroaching warmth, he knew that the stories of old were no different from their own. Each tale held its unique echoes, a chorus whispered through generations where love reigned supreme against all odds. Love, said Karl to himself, as if she had just spoken aloud his thoughts, is eternal. And with this affirmation nestled within the nooks of his heart and mind like cherished keepsakes from days long past, it was clear that their story would continue unfettered by time's relentless march. He understood now more than ever how love's narrative did not begin or end with them. It existed as an ancient river flowing ceaselessly through the ages, carving canyons of emotion and connection into humanity's collective soul. It was a force that defied even death itself, for what is truly ever lost to time when every heartbeat shared between two lovers reclaims it back with each tender glance or lingering touch. In the hush before daylight claimed dominion over night's final remnants, Karl felt his spirit soar on wings woven from dreams and hopes. He knew that though they were but transient beings within time's vast expanse, if their love was as enduring as history itself, an everlasting testament to the power of. Karl gazed into Elise's eyes, his own mirroring the depths within hers as they shared a silent promise to cherish every moment under this celestial dome. He knew that their story was but one thread in human history's vast quilter piece of an eternal tapestry, where passion and devotion danced hand in hand through time immemorial. He reached for her, his touch a gentle reminder of the enduring love they pledged to uphold against all adversities life might unleash upon them, a force as old as civilization itself, yet refreshingly new with each tender glance and loving embrace shared in their sanctuary among ancient trees. Their laughter melded into a symphony, harmonious echoes that resonated within the forest's hallowed silence and spoke of joys both simple and profound, an anthem to love's resilience through generations past and those yet unborn. As dawn approached with stealthy footsteps across the horizon, Karl wrapped his fingers around Elise's own in a final embrace before their separation at daybreak's first light. It was then that he realized how every memory they had created stood as sacred relics, artifacts of emotions and experiences enshrined within each other's hearts, where love transcended time, space, even death itself. In the cool embrace of pre-dawn chill, Karl felt a sense of freedom he hadn't known before. liberation from worldly concerns as his spirit embraced uncharted territories in Elise's mind and heart, a realm where every beat pulsated with their love. In this transcendental space between wakefulness and sleep, Karl saw the future of their bond not just endure, but flourish beyond any temporal constraints they might face together or apart. With eyes closed against the encroaching light that threatened to steal away his reverie, he whispered a vow into Elise's hair, a promise as timeless and unbreakable as their love itself. When fate may sever them like this thread of night, until they meet again, under different skies or within dreamscapes anew, he knew that even if time should pull at the strings binding him to her, every heartbeat shared would weave a stronger bond with each echoing pulsar tapestry, where love's story was eternally embroidered into their beings and souls without end or exception from mortality's dominion. As he stepped back from Elise in the tender afterglow of parted lips, Karl felt a serenity that only came when one knew they were forever safe within another's embrace, whether across vast distances through letters penned with soulful quills or whispered promises carried on breathless kisses. In this fleeting time before the sun claimed its throne over the night, Karl surrendered to a world of possibilities where their love could soar unhindered by earthly fetters, a journey that transcended mere physical realms and ventured into shared dreamscape adventures beyond imagination's horizon 09Z. As he lay nestled in Elise's embrace, Karl knew they were not just two individuals caught within the spirals of life, but a love too profound for this world to contain or force, as immutable and enduring as time itself. Their story was etched into existence with every stolen glance shared under moonlight's caress or in daybreak's first golden ray, an indelible mark upon the fabric that wove humanity together across eons of history, where love reigned supreme against all odds, or narrative as ancient and timeless as stars guiding travelers through uncharted waters. And so Karl drifted into dreams once more, his spirit uplifted by the certainty that their tale was not one to be concluded with this night of partings, but a chapter in an ever-unfolding saga journey where every heartbeat shared between two souls reaffirmed love's eternal flame. As he surrendered fully into sleep, his last thought before darkness claimed dominion over the remnants of daylight was that though they were but trance, as Karl lay nestled in Elise's embrace that night beneath a tapestry of stars and ancient constellation, whispering tales to those who would listen, his heart danced with hope and love unspoken yet deeply felt for his beloved, whose presence had become the essence of every joyous moment they shared. The world around them seemed to fade away as if in reverence to their bond. Even time itself bowed before this force that was both an anchor and a sail guiding Karl towards horizons unseen but fervently desired, and eyed not just through dreamscape adventures, but also the very depth of each other's souls. The night air carried their silent promises on its breeze as they walked hand in hand along cobbled streets that echoed with bygone eras, where once great empires rose and fell to powerless whispers beneath this same moon. Karl found solace knowing the constancy of love could eclipse even history's grandest narratives. Elise's laughter mingled with his own as they reminisced about their journey thus far, a tapestry woven from threads both bitter and sweet that had brought them to this precipice, where partings loomed like storm clouds, threatening yet poised on the horizon of a tomorrow unexplored. As midnight approached, Karl reached out for Elise's hand with tenderness befitting their shared dreamer future, penned in stardust and kisses beneath silvery light, where love knew no bounds nor fractures but simply was. As he did so, a peculiar warmth enveloped them like the first blush of dawn spreading across sleepy skies. It felt as though they were cradled by an invisible force, a guardian spirit blessing their union with serenity and hope amidst any uncertainty yet to come. In this sacred space between two hearts, Karl could feel Elise's presence even when she was not in arm's reach, her essence a comfort as constant as the northern star that had navigated countless mariners through treacherous water-surf, light steadfast against stormy seas. And so he whispered into the night their silent vows of eternity, knowing deep within his bones they were promises not to be broken but simply carried forward like embers in a hearth's gentle glow when she returned from her endeavors beyond this mortal realm. For though one day Karl would need rest and perhaps even find comfort elsewhere, with each passing second the parting felt less an end and more of transitioner chapter closing as another opened its pages to inscribe their journey with ink still wet upon parchment, unseen by eyes, but deeply sensed within souls intertwined across time's vast expanse, a tale that would be recounted among generations long after the last echoes fade from mortal ears. It was here, beneath this cloak of night, where dreamers found solace in shared reveries and whispered secrets to stars, unseen by daylight's prying ice there, love a lighthouse guiding them safely through life's tempests as they navigated the waters with compasses set on horizons together. And so Karl surrendered fully into sleep once more, his last thought before darkness claimed dominion over remnants of daylight, lingering in sweet anticipation that though their bodies might roam separate paths for a time, it was this unshakable bonfire, love's enduring flame, that would illuminate the darkest nights and guide them back into each other's arms when destiny deemed so. His heart knew only of Elise as he drifted, she not just his beloved, but also a constant and an ever-unfolding sardor, where every shared whisper, stolen glance beneath moonlit canopies, or kisses bestowed upon sunrise's first golden ray was the eternal testament to love's power of force as ancient and timeless as the stars that now cradled him in their embrace. Amidst this dreamlike trance, Karl felt a gentle tug at his spirit. He knew Elise carried on with her journey of exploration beyond physical realms, where possibilities stretched like sails against winds, unyielding her path she had chosen to forge in pursuit of knowledge and understanding that could one day bridge the chasm between worlds. With a soul as brave as his, Karl knew such quests were never undertaken alone. They always returned with tales woven from threads spun across universes where love's fabric held sway over a lack testament to strength found in unity. And the air around Karl was filled with the scent of old books as he sat upon a bench within an ancient library, its stone walls lined with leather-bound secrets whispering tales from civilizations long past, but whose echoes had shaped his thoughts like sculptors to clay in their quest for understanding. He traced patterns on dusty tomes that spoke of the cosmos and time itself, a pursuit driven by love, yet rooted firmly in intellectual curiosity about what lay beyond this mortal coil they both called home. As twilight stretched across landscapes like velvet draping over shoulders weary from day's toil, Elise found solace beneath an old willow tree whose leaves told stories of their own tales, not only of the lovers who once sought respite within its shade, but also reflections on life itself. She traced her fingers along roughened bark and whispered words meant for Karl's ear, knowing they would carry through time as effortlessly as dandelion seeds dancing upon a summer wind. Each word was an affirmation of their lover beacon that no distance could extinct 012T. Across vast fields where crops swayed to the earth's own rhythm, Karl stood alone yet not lonely as he pondered beneath open skies on nights when stars seemed especially bright and full of purpose. The constellations told him tales that no one else could, or silent language spoken in flickers above wherein lay messages from realms untold. It was here, amongst the celestial ballet, he often thought about Elise's journey through knowledge beyond humanity's grasp and felt a warmth as enduring as her love for him. Their shared dreaming world expanded ever so slightly with each passing day, or tapestry woven from threads of countless experiences, where laughter echoed in the valleys, tears glistened on mountaintops like jewels bestowed by sorrow itself, and every touch imbued a story. It was within this realm that they could roam as freely as thought allowed, an escape not just from reality but into something far more wondrous, where their love's flame never faltered or flickered in the night's embrace. Elise walked on cobblestone streets lined with ancient ruins that whispered of forgotten times, each step upon stone and mortar a tribute to history itself, a constant reminder of life's fragility yet also its tenacity, as she sought answers within the annals left behind by ages. The past was alive here in her heartbeat. Memories were not just cherished but lived through with every breath drawn into existence, each one a testament to their shared journey and resilience against time's relentless march. Karl ventured deep within the bowels of cathedral halls, where echoes danced upon high vaulted ceilings, or sanctuary for his soul, as he delved into holy texts that spoke in tongues older than their love but just as poignant, each word a prayer woven with hope and reverence to bridge heaven's distance. In this sacred silence, where divine voices often murmured secrets only deciphered by the most devout of hearts, Karl sought solace. His faith was not merely in gods long gone, but also trust that Elise's spirit would navigate her course with equal fervor and passion, or belief as steadfast as their love. The horizon began to blush at dawn's approach when they found themselves drawn once again together beneath the vast canvases of sky where colors mingled like old friends reunited after a long separation. The sunrise was not just another day, but an opportunity for rebirth or chance to reinforce their love with every golden ray that kissed Earth's cheek as they stood side by side, hands clasped firmly within each other's embrace. It felt like the world itself conspired in this sacred moment, where time held no dominion. As night fell, Elise watched Karl's face as he stood there in awe of nature's grand display before the matte canvas that seemed to hold all their dreams and sorrows, painted not just with light, but also imbued with warmth and color unseen since they had parted. With the sunrise came an understanding beyond words. It was as if time itself paused in respect for this moment of renewal between two souls who cherished each other more than life's fleeting beauty could ever provide comfort to another heart, except their own intertwined hearts that beat beneath the sky ready once again to witness the dawn. As they stood side by side amidst nature's tender embrace at this new daybreak hour of rebirth and commitment to enduring love, Karl felt an inexplicable serenity seep into his bones, or tranquility that came not just from Elise's touch but also the silent affirmations whispered by every sunbeam as it pierced through morning mist. His heart was a steady drum echoing within him. For Karl, love had always been an act of faith, each tender kiss and gentle gaze upon her lips serving as prayers that transcended beyond earthly realms into the heavens themselves, or sacred bond to which he surrendered his spirit without reservation. Elise's smile broke through clouds on Karl's face when she whispered a name, Hope, and it wasn't just any word but an invocation that drew them together like magnetized souls in search of eternal connection across the uncharted waters they called life, or journey where both had braved stormy seas to find safe harbor within one another's embrace. Her eyes sparkled with stories yet to be told, her every breath a testament that despite time's relentless march forward and its inevitable trials of distance or despair they might face alone, their love would remain unbroken, a timeless oath etched within the very stars themselves. Karl took Elise's hand as if to steady it against a future that promised both turmoil and tender moments alike. He knew her spirit was an unfading flame in his life, one which required no tinder but love's ceaseless devotion for sustenance, their trust rooted deep within the bedrock of their shared history. As they continued to stand before this new day's canvas that stretched endlessly across time and space around them, a collective sigh seemed to rise from nature itself, as if whispering secrets into Karl's ear. These were not mere spectators, but active participants in the miracle of love blossoming anew. The touch on their hands lingered like sacred scriptures written upon skin, each texture, each warmth a storyline that wove through years and across continents without losing its essence or strength, under sunsets shared beneath foreign skies or moonlit vigils in distant lands where the nights whispered of separation. Yet here they were together once more, as if destiny had rewound time to reclaim what was lost, reminding both Karl and Elise that love is not a journey with an end, but rather one without any defined destination. It simply exists within each heartbeat between them until the final breath drawn in repose beneath this sky of unconditional promise. Their shared gaze spoke volumes more than words could ever convey. It was as if they were two celestial bodies caught in an eternal dance across cosmic seas where light and darkness intermingled with tender embrace, or spectacle that even God himself would pause to witness, for what is sacred within the confines of a couple's love transcends mere mortal understanding. As stars twinkled overhead like silent guardians over this tableau vivid, etched upon nature's vast palette with strokes made from pure affection and devotion, their journey was not just about surviving against time, but rather flourishing within its flow, embracing every whisper of the wind as a symphony to accompany their sacred communion. As night began her darkening mantle across Earth's visage, Karl drew Elise close, and with one last look into each other's eyes, he knew this was not merely an end, but also a beginning, or new day dawning within the sanctuary of soul-deep connection where every second held infinity. And thus they stood together as twin pillars, supporting life's grand tapestry that wove through existence itself, their love becoming threads interlaced in this intricate design, imbued with strength to face whatever may come or go, resilience fortified by the belief that even when time stole moments from them, it as night began her darkening mantle across Earth's visage, and Karl drew Elise close beneath a canopy of twinkling stars, their hearts whispered secrets meant only for each other, a tender language that no ordinary ear could decipher. With one last look into each other's eyes, he knew this was not merely an end, but also the silent commencement of something new within the sanctuary of soul-deep connection where every second held infinity and beyond their mortal frames, to a realm untouched by time's relentless march. The gentle breeze picked up as if nature herself wished to cradle them in her cool arms on this significant night, when the horizon kissed goodbye to daylight with hues of deepening purple, and indigo canvas painted for their love story alone, a masterpiece where two figures stood poised at its heart. Karl's fingers traced patterns along Elise's soft cheek as she rested her head against his chest. It was an intimate dance they had perfected over time, and which seemed to flow with the same rhythm that guided celestial bodies through their nightly journey across the heavens. Elise's breath found a melody in Karl's steady heartbeat, creating waves of love lapping against his chest as he enveloped her closer, a protective cocoon spun from threads made not just from affection but devotion and hope for days to come, where they might face life with bravery fortified by the belief that their bond was a beacon in times both fair and foul. As she whispered words of endearment, her voice carried an echo only Karl could hear, its soundless symphony composed from every cherished memory shared since childhood, when first eyes met beneath old oaks, where laughter played freely among leaves that danced to the whims of autumn winds and spring showers. Their union was a sacred pilgrimage through life's trials, each step taken with unwavering commitment as they navigated love's ebb and flow like seasoned sailors on seas where light melded into darkness and back again, a cycle of renewal that spoke to the resilience imbued within them. The stars bore witness to their story's unfolding chapters, casting a warm glow upon scenes from past winter nights when they held hands through frost's touch, or under summer skies where heat lingered in tender kisses shared beneath canopies of greenery and laughter that bubbled like nearby brooks. As the evening deepened into an embrace as velvety black, Karl found solace knowing they had weathered every storm their hearts could muster to the facing loss, when seasons turned to memories, tender touch, or celebrating life's simple pleasures, such as watching sunsets paint skies with fiery hues of gold and crimson while cradling hands intertwined. For each day lived was a testament not only to their love, but also the strength they drew from one another. Their journey had been an odyssey that spanned decades, where time's passage became less about counting years and more towards savoring moments of pure connection, or tapestry woven with threads both golden and silver shaded by experiences which gave depth to the fabric of their union. Every tear shed or smile earned was a colorful patch sewn into its design. Elise, now resting on Karl's lap as darkness enveloped them completely under her protective gaze, her eyes mirror pools, reflecting his soul's soft glow against nighttime serenity that seemed to hold all of time within itself, a world where every heartbeat resonated with an eternal promise. As the final stars twinkled overhead, Karl knew their love was not just for today, but carried them into tomorrow's lighthouse, guiding vessels through uncertain seas towards safe harbors only found in mutual trust and understanding. A bond so profound that even as they stood together at this crossroads of life, where past met present, both felt an unspoken assurance whispered by the very earth beneath their feet, or belief etched into bones, no matter what time might steal from them in its relentless pursuit. For within these tender hearts that beat as one was a love so strong it transcended mere existence itself. And thus they stood together amidst nature's grand tapestry, a beacon of hope and devotion whose light shone eternal through life's ever-turning wheel, where every sunrise held promise renewed by hands joined in love, a testament to the power woven as Elise's soft breathing synchronized with Karl's heartbeat against his chest. They found themselves ensconced within a cocoon of shared dreamscapes and whispered promises that danced upon their lips like ancient incantations meant to ward off nightmares. The comforting embrace had carried them far beyond the last stars twinkle into realms where time lost its strict linearity, allowing memories not yet lived or even imagined to bloom beneath a sky painted with hues of their deepest connection and most intimate moments, or kaleidoscope born from shared silence that held more truth than any spoken word ever could. Karl's fingers traced the intricate pattern on Elise's dress, each thread weaving through his touch as if to tell a story not written but felt with every sense he possessed. It was in these quiet gestures they found solace and understanding beyond mere conversation's silent language of souls intertwined. In this enchanted world, where past laughter echoed into the future, Elise allowed her hand clasping his to slip backward through time until their first encounter under a canopy of cherry blossoms in spring bloom became as vivid today as it was that fateful day 2 years prior. With each memory revisited and relived within this dreamscape, Karl felt the depth of Elise's affection more profoundly than ever before. Her eyes held galaxies, swirling with colors unseen by mortal sight yet deeply known to his heart, a celestial dance that promised eternity even as their bodies were tethered only through this temporal existence. This was a love not merely for the day, but one anchored in countless tomorrows, where every moment shared had imprints on both souls and woven into something immutable against time's relentless march, a treasure trove of experiences that no erosion could ever hope to claim. And as they stood there together under the cherry blossoms, once more in this reverie, Karl felt an unvoiced assurance not just whispered by Elise but also sung within his bones, a belief etched into their shared history and echoing through every beat of two hearts that refused to succumb even as time threatened with its endless tide. A promise made in the tender folds of twilight, where love's flame burned brighter against encroaching night, a beacon guiding them both towards horizons yet unseen, but felt within every fibre, a threadbare bond that held firm despite time's relentless pursuit. This world they inhabited together was one of dreamers, where the very stars, in their celestial dance, spoke not just to each other across vast and empty spaces, but whispered secrets only known by those who shared a heartbeat or cosmos, within which love's light shone eternal despite night's embrace. And as they stood beneath this sky, Karl knew that no storm of circumstance or shadow cast from fading years could extinguish the fire burning in Elise's eyes, and warmth radiating through her touch, her flame kindled by shared soulful sparks on an unforgettable journey. As their fingers brushed with another tender intensity, Karl's thoughts wandered to a time when they had first met amidst laughter that filled air like music. It seemed just yesterday, yet spanned years within this dreamtimer connection forged not only in shared silence, but also through the echoes of heartbeats entwined with every sunrise and moonlit embrace. In those moments, Karl knew no force could dismantle their bond formed from a foundation as sturdy as bedrock itself. It was more than just two souls intertwining. It felt like destiny had guided them to this singular moment where love's promise rang loudest in the echoes of shared dreamscapes and whispered assurances. And thus, amidst nature's grand tapestry that stretched beyond sight into realms unimagined by mortal minds, her beacon of hope and devotion whose light shone eternal through life's ever-turning wheel, where every sunrise held promise renewed with hands joined in love, a testament to the power woven not just between two hearts, but within their very souls. For Elise, Karl knew that this connection was no mere coincidence or happenstance. It had been sculpted by fates beyond human understanding and guided by celestial threads binding them across time's expanse, a love so profound it transcended mere existence itself into realms where only eternity could dwell. In Chapter 18 of their eternal love's tale, as Karl and Elise found themselves ensconced in a world where time flowed like molasses around the map, place beyond mere years or days, but measured instead by feelings deep within the soul, their connection seemed to echo across both horizons and realms. It was on an ordinary evening when destiny, dressed as twilight's tender glow and a whispering breeze that carries secrets of old into their embrace, guided them back together after years apart for reasons unbeknownst to the world beyond this dreamtime sanctuary, where love's promise had always been etched in every sunrise they witnessed side by side and nightly moonlit confessions shared under a tapestry of stars. Their first encounter was upon meeting once more after their separation, laughter rippling through the air like music that seemed to harmonize perfectly with Elise's melodic voice, or sound intertwining so deeply within Karl's essence it felt as if they were born from a shared spirit. Each chuckle and giggle formed threads of connection weaving between them, stitching together the fabric of their hearts in ways that seemed to defy reality itself, for every sunrise greeted by one would be received with warmth by both, a reflection not only on mirrors but within each other's gaze. Their bond was as timeless and enduring as nature's grand tapestry, a weave of life where the past melded seamlessly into their present encounters. Every encounter with one another felt like stepping through portals to bygone days, when they were but children in love's tender bloom. In these shared dreamscapes or canvas beyond mortal conception they found solace, for the world outside this realm of eternal summer and starlight seemed alien and cold with its harsh truths that never touched their union. Instead, here was a space where hand and heart could feel as though they were walking alongside time itself. Through countless sunrises witnessed together, Karl knew the bond between them transcended mere chance or coincidence. It had been sculpted by forces unseen and guided through realms unfathomed, a connection that seemed to stretch across dimensions beyond human sight into vistas of eternity. They were like two rivers flowing side by side, their currents intertwining yet never crossing paths until destiny decreed otherwise, and in this confluence was found the essence of true love for Karl, a force so powerful it seemed to rise from dreams woven into being and then fade back out as if on wings. As they strolled hand in hand beneath an endless cascade of twilight hues, where shadows danced in playful abandonment amongst the fading light, Karl felt his spirit soar to heights untolder sensation that whispered promises not only within their shared dreamscapes, but also through every sunrise and moonlit embrace. The world beyond this sanctuary was one of transient moments, where connections often withered in the face of time's relentless march. Yet here, amidst nature's grand tapestry that stretched infinitely into realms unimagined by mortal minds, a beacon of hope and devotion whose light shone eternal through life's ever-turning wheel. With each sunrise they greeted together in this dreamtime haven, Karl knew the world outside their paradisiacal enclave could not fathom or comprehend, for here was a love so profound it transcended mere existence itself into realms where only eternity could dwell. In these moments, that seemed to stretch back decades yet felt as though they had just begun, Karl realized he understood the nature of their connection. It was destiny's hand guiding them across timelines unexplored and paths unknown, a love woven from starlight itself into souls indivisible. In this place where time flowed lazily like molasses around two hearts in eternal union, the echo of their laughter still filled air with music that could calm even the most tempestuous sea with immortal minds. And as Karl held Elise's hand close against his own, a touch lighter than memory yet imprinted forevermore upon his palm like a promise never to be forgotten nor lost in time's fickle stream, knew this love was indeed eternal, stretching beyond the fabric of reality into realms untouchable by human fates. Their connection defied understanding. It transcended dimensions where others might. In chapter 19 of our tale, beneath a velvety sky where dreams and reality seemed to merge seamlessly, Karl found himself enveloped in an ethereal calm that whispered secrets only he could understand as his fingers traced the lines on Elise's hand. She was more than just another woman whose eyes mirrored the depth of oceans untouched by time. She felt like a fragment of destiny, and Karl knew without question their souls were bound in an eternal dance that had played out since before stars first lit up the heavens. As days melted into nights with no discernible pattern, Karl would often find Elise sitting by his side, or rather beside him, on a hillside of emerald grass where wildflowers bloomed in perpetual springtime that never wilted under their tender care. She had an uncanny ability to speak the language of the earth itself, and when she touched her cheek, it left imprints like ancient runes upon his skin, or promise engraved with the permanence of eternity's own signature. Their bond was a silent hymn that resonated in Karl's heartbeat as he watched Elise laugh freely amidst falling petals and fluttering leaves, her mirth not just an echo, but also the very essence of joy itself, her force capable of stilling rivers into glassy mirror pools. In this realm where their love was a tangible tapestry woven from starlight threads that draped over them with every passing moment, they would sit and listen to stories told by fireflies as if each flicker brought forth an echo of the past or foreshadowing glimpses into futures yet unseen. One evening, beneath a constellation map inked onto their shared dreamscape skyliner night, where time seemed but a suggestion rather than a rule, Karl and Elise would often find themselves walking hand in hand through fields that stretched to horizons beyond horizon's reach, each step imbuing them with strength drawn from the very soil beneath their feet. They spoke in hushed tones of worlds they had wandered, where love was not bound by blood but a universal truth so profound it transcended all known dimensions, tales that could only be shared between souls who knew themselves to belong within this otherworldly place, as if the land itself conspired with their hearts in harmony. Their Laughter had become legend among these celestial shores, her melody of mirth and mystery so pure it seemed to lift them upwards on invisible zephyrs toward a symphony where every star's twinkle was but an accompaniment to the music within their own joined spirits. With each day Karl felt his understanding deepen as if diving into fathomless depths of self and other. He discovered that in this dreamtime havened his paradisiacal enclave safeguarded by love's unyielding embrace of in the stars listened to their whispered vows. As twilight approached on a day like any other, yet different only because it was as if they had lived through countless such days before and would continue after many more of its brethren in turn beneath this same sky, Karl felt Elise's hand rest against his with the tender familiarity that spoke to him beyond words. It held not just affection, but a promise and assurance woven into every touch like delicate filigree upon silk. Each caress was an act of devotion as enduring and eternal as this place itself, where time flowed lazily around two hearts in union that refused to be bound by its fickle currents. And so they stood together on the hilltop's crest under a sky painted with hues too vivid for mortal eyes or palate only dreamers could truly behold, where even as night fell and stars ascended like jewels upon velvet, clouds above them, Karl realized that their love was not simply eternal. It transcended all understanding. It flowed through realms untouchable by human fates or the ravages of passing irascible force, so profound in its essence as to make even destiny itself pause and take note within this sanctuary where dreams were reality, love was law, and time knew no master but their shared heartbeat. As Karl looked into Elise's eyes, an ocean of stars reflecting back at him through which his soul saw worlds beyond the horizon's edge, understood that in this place they had found not just solace or respite from life, as it was known to mortals, but a fragment of eternity itself. Here, there in Chapter 20, as Karl and Elise stood hand in hand upon that sacred hilltop where they had first promised eternity to one another beneath a sky alive with colors only felt in dreams, their senses were overwhelmed by the profound serenity of this place. Here was an enchanting world, untouched by time's relentless march or sanctuary, where love reigned supreme, and every heartbeat echoed like a thunderous drum through eternity itself. Karl's thoughts drifted to their journey back when they were children playing in the fields that now grew into vibrant memories beneath them. How Elise's laughter had filled those spaces with joy, and Karl felt his heart sing along as if it was still thent melody timeless. With each step on this sacred ground, he found himself retracing their path through life, the schoolyard friendships of youth that blossomed into unbreakable bonds, Elise's tender embrace during times when Karl had felt lost amidst stormy seas and nowhere in particular to call home. The night was upon them, but as if by magic, a crescent moon rose higher than the stars above their heads, its silvery light casting long shadows that danced between Karl and Elise like spirits of old, celebrating love's triumph over time's tyranny. The air grew cooler with each passing hour, yet no chill touched them, as if they were ensconced in a cocoon spun by the universe itself, woven from threads of moonlight that shimmered around their intertwined fingers and entwined legs, or tableau so precious it seemed unreal. Elise's gaze was fixed upon Karl's face as they stood side by side. Her own eyes were dark pools reflecting the cosmos, holding within them galaxies born from shared dreams that traversed endless realms of possibility and wonder to this place between their souls where reality became malleable under love's touch. It was here Karl realized what he had always known, but never fully grasped. They were not simply two people who loved each other in this world. No, it transcended that simple truth. Like the ocean waves kissing distant shores, they existed as one entity within eternity's embrace, where time held its breath. As he looked into Elise's eyes once more, Karl saw not just reflection, but a universe unto itself containing infinite horizons and paths untrodden by human feet or hearts alike. This was their sanctuary, a place beyond the reach of sorrow's pallor, where even shadows could only whisper sweet lullabies. Here they had found solace, yes, but also a profound sense that whatever trials lay ahead for mortal men and women on distant worlds were rendered inconsequential in this hallowed expanse, a testament to the strength of their bond where love was law. Here no storm could rage nor nightfall claim dominion. Karl wrapped his arms around Elise's shoulders, feeling her heartbeat against his chest as if it were a sacred echo resonating with every pulse that flowed through him, her cadence so pure and familiar He felt sure they had shared more silent conversations in this place than words ever spoken or heard. Each touch was an assurance woven into their very being, like delicate filigree upon silk. Each caress a promise of enduring devotion as timeless as the essence that now defined them, a force so profound it even made destiny itself pause and take note within this sanctuary where dreams were law. Their souls hummed in harmony, like twin melodies woven from threads of shared humanity yet untainted by the complexities that often accompanied such connections. They had found not just solace or respite, but a fragment of eternity itself, here a place where their love became as natural and essential to existence as breathing air, like rivers cutting through canyons over eons, only knowing one destination, toward each other. As Karl looked upon Elise's face illuminated by the crescent moon's borrowed light, that seemed a reflection of his own joy or smile, so genuine it washed away any lingering shadows cast across their shared history. He knew this place held power beyond measure, not just for them but in its very existence as proof humanity could transcend mortality's confines and touch the divine. For they had stood here together at destiny's crossroads where love flowed through realms untouchable by time or fate. Their souls intertwined, their bond was an echo from within destiny itself. It resonated through Karl and Elise like soft laughter carried by gentle winds across fields of wildflowers, spreading warmth in its wake with a touch as light yet unyielding as feathers caught upon the breeze. Destiny had indeed paused to bear witness here, a place where their love was an immutable constant amidst life's transitory dance. Karl gazed at Elise, whose eyes were pools reflective of constellations yet unnamed. Her smile mirrored his own joy with such clarity that the very shadows which once seemed to darken their shared history melted away like mist under a rising sun's tender embrace. Her presence around him was as natural and essential, just as breathing air is her fundamental component of existence, where dreams rule supreme over reality's domain. It felt here that they were at the heartbeat of an unseen world pulsating with pure love between them, a place seemingly touched by divinity. The twinkling stars above seemed to nod in agreement, as if acknowledging their claim upon this sacred space or sanctuary, where passion was kindled and nurtured like ancient flames that refused to be extinguished but instead grew ever brighter with each passing moment, casting a glow so luminous it could guide lost souls home. Karl felt within him the assurance of his devotion woven into existence. Every caress from Elise's hand upon his was an affirmation that promised their unity would endure as steadfastly and intricately as filigree on silk, crafted by hands divine themselves for a love beyond mortal comprehension. As they sat together in the twilight's embrace, her canvas painted with strokes of hope against night's velvet backdrop, Karl reached out to hold Elise closer. Her lips were as soft whispers promising eternity itself, and each word she spoke was a symphony composed by human hearts united in purpose. Their conversations flowed like rivers through canyons carved across eons of shared existence, but always finding solace not just within themselves or the sanctified grounds upon which they lay. It was here that Karl felt he had found something far more profound than mere respite or fragment, a sliver, if one might dare to call it so, of eternity itself in their love's enduring flame. He knew this place held power beyond measure, not just for them, but as an affirmation that humanity could indeed transcend the confines imposed by mortality and reach towards something diviner, testament to a connection so pure it seemed even love itself might have paused in its eternal journey across realms untouchable. Their presence here was not just significant. Their love felt essential, as if they were both key elements of existence's very fabric, woven together by threads invisible and yet palpably strong, and intertwining soulful melodies harmonious beyond any complexities that often marred such bonds in the world outside. As Karl leaned into Elise, his heart swelled with an assurance so profound it became a part of him as surely as he was now undeniably hers. Their souls hummed together like twin melodies or harmony born from shared humanity and untouchable by the intricacies that could accompany such relationships. It felt here, among these mountains under an indigo sky, in this place where dreams were law, they had become one with eternity itself, a part of something so timeless it seemed to stretch backward into infinity while simultaneously reaching forward towards tomorrow's dawn, as unpredictable and yet somehow predestined. Their love was the very essence that defined them, an assurance woven through their being, an eternal filigree upon silk, each tender touch a testament to enduring devotion, just like timeless traditions of old, civilizations carved into stone by hands long returned to dust. In this sanctuary where dreams were, as Karl and Elise lay beneath a blanket of stars that seemed to shimmer with their own love's light, they found themselves enveloped in dreamscapes where time flowed like molasses. They floated through these visions, towed to Karl as an ancient mariner navigating by celestial bodies long extinct, and Elise as a muse inspiring the creation of world-renowned artworks that spoke to souls across ages, both moving with purpose yet without hurry or destination in mind. In one dreamscape, Karl stood upon distant shores where civilizations rose like monuments to human aspiration before succumbing to their own hubris and fading into the mists of forgotten history, yet his spirit remained resilient amidst these echoes of glory past. He understood that even empires are but a season in time. Beside him, Elise was there too, her eyes alight with empathic brilliance as she touched each person's face and felt the collective yearning for beauty within their lives. Her touch here revived an ancient tradition of storytelling under starlit skies. A caress rekindled communal fireside chats that shared wisdom, laughter, and love. Then they found themselves in another vision, where Karl watched from afar as Elise led processions through lush valleys drenched with the colors of blooming flowers, their scents filling his senses like an orchestra tuning up before a symphony that resonated across all creatures, great and small. He felt their unity, inseparable yet free-flowing as rivers converging into vast oceans. Elise's laughter melded with the rustling leaves to create melodies of nature, itself a harmony so complete it birthed new landscapes where humans lived alongside spirits, all dancing under night sky and moon. As dawn approached in their dreamland sanctuary nestled among mountains kissing clouds, Karl saw his reflection not as a man, but an amalgamation of every soul he had touched, at each gaze offering kindred's gratitude for life's blessings. Elise, too, was one with the essence that made her beautiful beyond form. They knew in their union they were reflections mirroring humanity itself, imperfect yet profoundly perfect, each carrying a fragment of eternity within the continuum where heartbeats synchronize like pendulums ticking across infinity's expanse. Time was both an ally and adversary to love, but in their embrace it became irrelevant, as if the universe itself had folded upon its axis, making every second a lifetime. The mountains around them whispered secrets of ages past, while peaks wore crowns glistening with morning dew, a testament that all existence is cyclical yet eternal. Karl and Elise understood their love was an echo through time's corridor, resonating in the heartbeats across epochs. With every touch upon each other's cheek or hand holding firm to another's back as they navigated dreamscapes of unparalleled beauty, they journeyed together into realms where history and future danced a past adieu on nature's grand stage. Their bond was the thread stitching through time, an embroidery upon existence itself, and when sleep finally claimed them with gentle fingers, that promised restoration of weary souls to bodies worn by life's trials, Karl and Elise found solace in knowing they had been one for but a night among these ethereal mountains where dreams were not just possible, they were the very essence. In their shared slumber beneath an indigo sky that shimmered with promise of tomorrows yet to be born or unmade, their love was both eternal and ephemeral, forever a part of them while always belonging fully outside themselves. As Karl's heart swelled, not just within his chest, but in every atom around him, resonating with the frequency that is pure connection. Amidst this sanctuary, where dreams were birthed into reality, a place neither bound by time nor untouchable from worldly concerns, they knew their love was a constant melody, an eternal harmony hummed in twin voices. It felt as real here, among these sacred peaks and valleys, that even gods might envy the purity of human affection. It seemed to Karl, with each dreamscape voyage he embarked upon alongside Elise there, love was a bridge across all dimensions, an unbreakable chain linking past's legacy with future's potential. It transcended mere mortality and wove itself into the very tapestry of existence. As Karl drifted deeper, as Karl and Elise continued to float in their shared dreamscape beneath an indigo sky that shimmered with promise of tomorrows yet unborn, a sense of profound peace settled over them like dew upon morning leaves. In this ethereal realm, where the mountains whispered secrets of olden times and valleys hummed lullabies from across worlds or place, neither bound by time nor untouchable from their earthly concerns, they found not just rest, but a deeper understanding of what it meant to be truly together. Karl's heart swelled with the knowledge that he had discovered his soulmate in Elise and knew they were fated for each other. Her essence was so intricately woven into every threadbare moment spent apart from one another, yet now here, at this sacred mountain base where dreams birthed reality. They felt as though their love transcended mere mortality. It had become a part of the universe's very fabric, and in turn they were threads within it themselves, eternally intertwined with each other amidst these ancient peaks that seemed to stretch infinitely into both past and future. Within this sanctuary, where love was as natural as breathing air, where every heartbeat resonated like a drum of war between joyous union and the gentle kisses it brought forth upon tired cheeks, Karl could almost hear their voices meld together in an eternal harmony, twin melodies that danced through time, defying its relentless march. As they traversed these dreamscapes hand in hand with Elise, the boundary between what was and what might be blurred into a singularity of existence their place, where every step taken side by side on this sacred ground carried them back to memories imbued with laughter beneath starlit skies. Elise's eyes twinkled like stars as she gazed upon Karl, her expression one of contentment and gratitude for their transcendent union, or beacon within these dream realms where even the gods might envy such purity in human affection. A love that felt not just enduring but divine. She knew too well how they had arrived at this point, through trials, tribulations, separation by war and distance alike, which only served to strengthen their bond as lovers destined for eternity within each other's embrace upon the earth, once more awakened from these nightly voyages. They knew well that with every dream-fueled journey they embarked on together, Elise's spirit and Karl's soul were becoming one, intertwining so deeply between them as to create a singular presence within this realm of infinite possibilities, or place where love could manifest itself in all its purest form. In the company of dreaming mountains that bore witness to their every shared whisper, they discovered truths about themselves and each other previously unseen. How even amidst life's trials, which had left them both weary souls seeking solace, their union was a restoration not just for bodies worn by time, but also revitalizing the very essence of who Karl and Elise were. As they delved deeper into this sacred journey, their love became an unbreakable chain that linked past's legacy with future's potential. It transcended mere mortality, as if weaving itself directly within the threads of existence where every choice made carried profound significance upon both worlds, earth and dream. Karl realized now how his heart had always known, even before they met under those stars, that first night when fate brought their paths to cross in this very mountain base, for he could feel it here among these sacred peaks, as if the universe itself conspired with Elise's spirit across all dimensions, guiding them toward one another. With each step forward on this path, where dreamscapes folded upon themselves like origami, or place of infinite complexity and beauty, they unearthed layers within their love that were both a treasure to behold yet humbling in scope as it stretched beyond the horizons. How one soul could so intimately merge with another without losing individuality, but rather becoming more fully themselves through shared experiences. An alchemy of souls where two became three and even transcended mere human understanding. And amidst all this, Karl knew that though their love was a constant melody or harmony hummed in twin voices throughout eternity's expanse, they were not alone for long as the mountain base itself whispered tales of ancient hearts who had loved and lost within its embrace. It echoed with memories where dreamers sought solace from worldly concerns, but found themselves amidst a love so pure even gods might envy their union. He felt Karl and Elise continued to explore their love in its most tender form as they found themselves under a canopy of stars, where each flickering light seemed like an old friend's comforting gaze upon them from across time, or perhaps even dimensions unseen by human eyes. The mountain air was cool against the skin, but within it swirled whispers that spoke not just to their hearts, but also through Karl and Elise's shared breath, carrying with it echoes of those who had come before, lovers whose stories were interwoven into the very fabric of these sacred peaks. As they walked hand in hand towards a small cottage where an ancient couple was said to have lived centuries ago, their footsteps seemed lighter than when surrounded by nature alone, as if each step forward on this path could unravel more secrets about love's enigmatic dance through the ages. The cottage stood silently atop a narrow ledge overlooking an emerald sea of grass, nestled among stone and earth, like two old souls who had once loved fiercely beneath this very sky. Karl paused to admire its timeless beauty or structure, that seemed almost mythical in nature, now standing as evidence of eternal devotion within the mountain's embrace. Inside was an empty room, dust-covered furniture serving only as silent witnesses to a love lost long ago but somehow still resonant with warmth and affection, for its occupants are a couple who had carved out their own story in these same stones centuries earlier than Karl and Elise's present. Karl felt an unseen thread connecting him through the ages back to this very cottage where two hearts once intertwined so closely that it seemed as if they could merge into one being without losing any essence of their individuality, or testament to love's ability not only to blend but also multiply and evolve. Elise led Karl down a narrow stone staircase, the air growing cooler with each step deeper within this sanctuary from time itself. They reached an underground chamber where shadows danced on ancient murals that told of love's endurance through joyous celebration as well as its trials by sorrow and loss. These were not mere decorations but sacred relics, portraits painted with the vibrancy of life itself, or visual symphony composed in colors to narrate tales where even gods might pause their celestial journeying for a moment's respite upon seeing such pure love. Karl and Elise traced patterns on these murals as they imagined themselves living within them, embracing each other through eternity's expanse with strength drawn from the very essence of being that could endure beyond mere mortal understanding. Their bond felt not just timeless, but somehow universal, or shared energy where two distinct souls merged to form a love greater than its parts. As Karl and Elise explored deeper, they found themselves in front of an ornate altar dedicated to those who had come before them on this journey through time's endless river. The couple offered flowers that bloomed with colors brighter than any sunset seen upon these sacred peaks for passion's fiery embrace and purples for love's profound depth. At their feet they discovered a small wooden box carved from an unknown tree whose leaves whispered in the cool mountain breeze. Within it lay something unfamiliar yet strangely familiar to Karl, a locket that seemed suspended between time and space itself, as if cradled by history's own hand. Karl opened the locket, revealing a miniature portrait of an unknown woman whose eyes held stories older than any mountain. He felt her presence encircle them both with silent wisdom forged in heartache yet transcended it all to offer solace and strength born from suffering's ashes. Her love was unwavering even when faced with loss, teaching Karl that though every soul may encounter trials along the path of Totnes, their journey held no bounds nor limits beyond endurance or growth into one another's being. As they continued to wander through this ancient chamber, where past and present merged seamlessly in an alchemical blend, Karl understood that love was not merely a feeling but rather the very act of embracing life's trials, together with courageous hearts, or shared odyssey across time's vast sea. They came upon a section dedicated to dreamers who sought refuge from worldly concerns within this sacred place. Each couple had etched their names into stone alongside tales of encounters that spanned the spectrum between euphoric joy and heart-wrenching, as Karl and his beloved Amelia stood amidst the echoing grandeur of a forgotten castle in Scotland, or place where time seemed to have curled up like waves upon ancient shores. They felt an unspoken connection with every soul that had tread these halls before them. They were two souls bound by fate's delicate thread. Their love was the kind forged not just through joy, but also amidst life's trials and tribulations, a resilient bond stretching across centuries, unyielded even in the face of adversity or loss. The castle had stood as a silent guardian over countless stories woven into its very stones. Within these walls lay secrets that pulsed with history's rhythm and whispered tales, long silenced by time's passage. It was here, amidst the hushed reverence for past lives lived, Karl discovered an inscription on a weather-worn stone near where they stood, a couple who had once found solace within these very walls during their darkest hours of bereavement and heartache. Amelia traced her fingers along the faded letters as she read aloud to Karl. In this sacred place, we sought refuge from worldly concerns. A pang of empathy resonated deep in Karl's chest. He had always believed that love was not just an ephemeral feeling, but a tangible presence or force that could weather the fiercest storm and emerge unbroken. Lost within their own world, they continued to explore every nook of this ancient chamber, where past and present merged seamlessly in an alchemical blend. Karl knew he had found something truly special here with Amelia, a shared odyssey across time's vast sea that promised endless horizons. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the castle, A grand chamber revealed itself to them like a long-lost treasure unearthed from history's embrace. Karl paused as his gaze fell upon an intricately carved wooden door at its center, a portal that seemed out of place among these crumbling walls, yet held within it the promise of new-found discoveries and revelations about their own journey together. He felt a shiver down his spine, not from fear, but anticipation. Amelia joined him beside this enigmatic door as Karl extended a trembling hand to trace its ornate patency carving depicting scenes of love enduring through the ages, lovers embraced in eternal warmth despite life's trials, families gathered around hearth fires, finding solace and strength within each other's arms. The craftsmanship spoke volumes about a time when such artistry was not just appreciated but revered for its beauty, as well as the stories it conveyed are testament to love transcending boundaries of space and era alike. Karl closed his eyes, feeling Amelia's presence encircle him with silent wisdom that had been born from heartaches long endured by others before them. When they opened their eyes again together, the door lay ajar, not quite open, but inviting nonetheless, as if offering passage into an unseen world beyond its threshold. Karl felt Amelia reach out towards it gently with her own hand, and he knew without hesitation that this was where destiny awaited them next in our tale. As they took their first tentative steps through the doorway, a sudden shift seemed to occur around them. Time itself appeared suspended within these hallowed chambers, as if granting permission for Karl and Amelia's love story to unfold upon this sacred stage. It was here that history whispered its secrets into willing ears while embracing those who sought refuge in unity's embrace. The room beyond the doorway unveiled itself with a soft glow, bathing them both in warm light as Karl noticed an ancient tapestry hanging from one wall, or depiction of humanity's journey through love and loss that mirrored their own experience like reflections dancing upon water. He felt Amelia grasp his arm tightly, her touch providing comfort against the cool surface where threads entwined in a silent narrative just waiting for an attentive heart to unravel its meaning. Karl took time here within this enchanted chamber, a place beyond ordinary reality that seemed more suited as sanctuary than mere room. He understood now why such places existed throughout history, offering solace and strength born from suffering's ashes, while also acting as portals for those seeking to connect with the essence of human love across all eras. Within this sacred space, where past encounters danced upon dusty airwaves like G.S. Karl and Amelia stood in awe. Within this mystical room that defied time's relentless march, they felt an invisible thread of continuity weaving through their own love amidst history's grand tapestry, a shared destiny now visible before them. They took slow steps forward, as if being pulled by the very essence of connection itself, with each heartbeat syncopating to a rhythm older than life. They knew this was where legends are birthed and tales that transcend ages found their voice. The ancient tapestry beckoned them closer, a silent guardian overlooking countless stories woven through threads of gold, silver, and deep crimson colors which danced under the soft glow illuminating its surface like sunlight on a quiet sea at dawn. As Karl reached out to trace his fingers along with Amelia's hand entwined in his own, he realized that their touch was but one thread among many, each representing souls who had lived and loved within these walls as they did now. Karl's gaze lingered on the image of a couple from centuries past. Love here seemed timeless, yet so alien to them both in its unfiltered expression, devoid of modernity's shielding armor that often hid true emotion beneath layers of facade and artifice. It reminded him how they had come to not just as two hearts beating at the same pace, but also against a backdrop where history felt tangible enough to touch like woolen fabric, softened by age yet impenetrable in strength when knitted with intention. Amelia's eyes followed his gaze until they rested upon her own reflection within this eternal mirror, a reminder that their love story was not an echo, but a whisper of now resonating through the ages. It had found fertile ground here, where past and present coalesced in unity's embrace, creating something new yet inherently familiar to those who dared look upon such sacred connections. Without uttering words that might disrupt this delicate balance between them or within themselves, a place seemingly crafted by divine intervention rather than mere happenstance of history's fickleness, they shared a moment steeped in the quiet acknowledgment of their presence among legends, knowing well enough not to disturb these sacred scenes. Their eyes met and held each other with an understanding born from silence. It was within this sanctuary that Karl felt his soul whisper back its gratitude for finding Amelia as her companion who had navigated life's tempests by the warmth of their joint hands, hearts beating in unison against time's tide. They moved through each other with a tenderness and reverence that spoke volumes to one another without needing words. Karl felt Amelia's chest rise steadily as she breathed, her steady drumbeat syncopated by their shared breath, amplifying the sanctity of this hallowed ground. The chamber seemed alive with stories untold but not forgotten, and in those whispers that danced through dusk motes suspended in golden light lay a message for them alone. They were here on purpose to find solace within these timeless tales, offering strength born from suffering's ashes while also acting as portals between eras of love. Karl allowed himself the luxury of time or moment not bound by hours or minutes, but measured in heartbeats resonating with history's echoes. He understood now why such places existed throughout his journey, offering solace and strength born from suffering's ashes while also acting as portals for those seeking to connect. Amelia wrapped an arm around Karl's shoulders, touched grounding yet uplifting them both in a shared experience that transcended their individual selves. It was within the tapestry of ages where they found fragments of themselves, emboldened by this connection beyond mere happenstance or fleeting chance. They stood together amid whispers and silent stories encased upon threads or testament to love's enduring flame flickering through time's corridor. Karl felt within him a thread that intertwined with Amelia, strengthening their bond like the weft crossing warp in fabric creation. A sense of timelessness enveloped them as they lingered to a soul's embracing history's embrace while also reaching towards tomorrow. Each heartbeat a note within an eternal symphony composed by countless lovers before and those yet to come, their own love story resonating in harmony with this everlasting melody. Karl took one last look at the ancient tapestry, living piece, as Karl and Amelia stood in or before an ancient tapestry depicting scenes of history intertwined with threads of legend. They felt as if their souls were becoming one thread within its woven narrative. The air was still. The only sounds that permeated this place seemed to be distant whispers from another age, a soft murmur or perhaps even a sigh emanating through time itself. Karl's fingers traced over patterns of olden love and battles, each touch revealing more about their own connection, as if history was guiding them towards understanding themselves better than they had ever known within the confines of modernity. Amelia found herself fixated on a particular scene, a garden in bloom where two figures stood hand in hand under an Empyrean sky, illuminated by countless shimmering stars overhead. Their expressions bore resemblance to Karl's and hers from years before they had first met. It was as if the tapestry sought out reflections of love in its weaver's heart, or testament that this bond held a significance transcending time itself, echoed by those who came after them within these same threads of fate. Drawn back to Karl's side, Amelia watched his eyes close momentarily as he took one last look around the chamber before they returned home. Her own gaze followed suit and soon closed too, in a quiet surrender, a silent promise that their journey was not yet complete, but merely paused between breaths. The tapestry seemed to hum with an energy born of ages, its threads vibrating as if carrying within them secrets yearning for release into the present moment. Karl felt compelled by this ancient resonance and suggested they take a piece from it home, a small thread that he believed held their intertwined fates. Together they gently lifted one of its sections containing intricate depictions woven with gold threads among silken strands, scenes where love had triumphed despite the harshest trials and tribulations life could impose upon souls entangled in affection's embrace. There was a comforting familiarity to these images, as if they were peering into mirrors reflecting their own potential futures. Karl held Amelia's other hand while she studied the thread with her eyes closed, a physical manifestation of shared destiny that seemed too perfect not to be orchestrated by something more than mere chance. An enigmatic pattern began taking shape within her mind's eye, connecting past memories and potential tomorrows in a seamless continuity. Their fingers intertwined as they pulled the thread from its resting place among other artifacts that told stories of time-lost eras. Amelia found herself smiling despite their somnolent state, a reflection not only on Karl's face but within her own heart, wherein she discovered a strength born out of love's eternal flame flickering even through history's corridor. This connection between them felt as though it was forged in the very fabric of time itself, their shared histories and futures woven together into one continuous thread that spanned centuries, binding past to present with an unbreakable yarn. As Karl held Amelia's hand tightly within his own, he couldn't help but feel a sense of timelessness enveloping them, a sensation as profound and comforting as the warmth from beneath layers of ancient tapestry where they had once found solace together in its presence. It was then that Karl whispered to Amelia with eyes closed, his voice steady yet filled with wonderment at their discovery. He spoke words meant only for her ears, but which carried within them all who would listen through the ages, or secret shared between two souls connected across time and space. "My love," Karl began softly amidst this sacred chamber of whispered histories, "there is something about you that feels as if it belongs not just to us alone today, but also every lover before or after. Our bond seems built upon threads stretching back into antiquity, an unbroken lineage binding human hearts in perpetual dance with destiny's embrace." Amelia's lips curled upward at his words, her response a tender hum that matched the rhythm of their own heartbeats as they resonated through time. "And you," she whispered back gently against Karl's chest, where he felt most secure amidst this chamber filled with echoes from centuries past and whispers yet to be sung into existence by future lovers, "have become my anchor in reality's stormy sea, anchoring me firmly within myself as well. Here at the confluence of our histories lies," as Karl leaned closer to Amelia within their shared cocoon of history and whispering tapestries that seemed to breathe with life. He felt a sense of timelessness envelop them both. The gentle glow from an ancient oil lamp cast dancing shadows on the walls adorned with frescoes depicting love lost, as well as found throughout ages past, a visual symphony playing softly in their sanctuary. "My dearest," Karl said, his voice barely above a murmur that echoed within the sacred chamber of whispered histories and tales yet to be sung into existence by future lovers. "The secret I hold is one not just between us, but shared with all who have ever loved beneath the watchful gaze of these timeless threads." Amelia, whose heart felt as though it were woven from silk spun through generations and eternities beyond their own fleeting moment together, sighed contentedly against his side. She knew that within this shared space, where echoes converged, their love had found a kind of immortality not even the relentless passage of time could erode away from its essence. With each word Karl uttered, and every tender glance he cast upon Amelia, they seemed to traverse an unseen path through history itself, their spirits touching points where others once stood before the map pilgrimage made not with feet, but with hearts intertwined in the timeless dance of destiny. "We are more than just two individuals," Karl continued softly as he traced his fingers along a faded embroidery that depicted lovers from bygone eras, "for we walk alongside them now, in their embrace, within this chamber surrounded by the silent witnesses of ages long past and those yet to come into being, or place where each thread was imbued with stories, untold but felt as if lived through lithe zeros intertwined across epochs." Karl spoke his love aloud. It seemed no words could contain such depth within their shared breath. Amelia's heart swelled at the notion that here in this quietude and reverence for history they had discovered a bond transcending mere mortality or connection to something divine, as if ordained by fate itself since time immemorial. As Karl recited lines from an ancient poem about love eternal, Amelia's thoughts drifted back through the annals of human experience, where countless souls had traversed similar emotional landscapes, that her own journey felt uniquely interlaced with his within this moment and their shared time together. "You see," Karl whispered against her cheek, "our love is a bridge across centuries. It's as though we have been waiting for each other to arrive all along." Amelia's mind wandered further back in the timeline of human emotion or tapestry, where they had once found solace together. A connection felt so strong that even before Karl spoke, she knew his heart lay bare at her chest. Their love was not just for each other, but a part of them both individually and as collective beings within the vast tableau of human history. Karl took Amelia's hand gently in his own to hold it still against an ancient fresco, where two lovers from centuries past were depicted with hands clasped just like theirs had been countless times before, and would continue long after they themselves might no longer walk upon the earth. "I feel our love is a legacy," Karl said earnestly as he gazed up at her eyes that shimmered beneath soft candlelight, "one I wish to entrust you with, her torch we shall carry forward into whatever comes next for us." Amelia's heart swelled in response. It was an honor and a privilege beyond measure to be chosen not just by Karl, but also as the custodian of such profound affection that had been cherished, honored, and passed down through generations of sacred trust bestowed upon her spirit alone seemed almost too grand for one person to shoulder in solitude without another soul beside them who shared this burden equally. As Karl continued his murmured speech about the love they'd found within these walls that time forgot, but memory never could, Amelia felt their spirits entwine with every whisper of passion and pain woven into the very fabric around her, a connection between lovers across all possible timelines where happiness was shared in defiance of sorrow's dark shadow. "I want nothing more than for our love to be as immortal as these walls," Karl confessed, his voice barely rising above a sigh that stirred the dust motes